Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So this video about the presentation task research method. We are from group 6. That's the classroom action research or PTK. So the first material explained by Kak Jija.
Okay, I will explain the material. The first is about what is the PTK. There is a classic but very crucial problem. This is faced by teachers in improve the quality of learning in school. Recently, research follow-up on input to conduct classroom has become a trend for solving problems and improve quality in various fields. The PTK process begins with a systematic study of the problem. Then observation and evaluation are carried out, which are used as input of reflection at the implementation stage. And the next, the concept of PTK. There are several definitions of the basic concept of classroom action research, one of which is Sanford and Chemis. They argue in 1 Gede Harja Subrata, action research as a controlled investigative process that is recyclable and self-reflective in nature, which has the aim of making improvement to system, way of working, process, content, competence, or situation.
Thank you for Kak Jija because they explained the PTK. The next material explained by Jamila Hatta.
Okay, I will explain about characteristic PTK. Number 1 is triggered by practical problems that are internalized or experienced by teacher in their daily tasks. And the next is it is done through self-reflection, not the usual research to find new knowledge. For once, our own practice. And the next is conducted in the classroom where the focus is on learning activities in the form of teacher or student behavior in interactions. The last one is aim to improve the quality of learning. The next one is the purpose of PTK. The purpose of PTK is to improve the quality of teacher learning practice, improve the teacher learning performance, identify and find solution to learning problem in the classroom, increase teacher competency in the solving learning problems, explore and produce learning innovation to improve learning quality, unite ideas, way, and new strategies in learning to improve the quality of learning, exploring insightful or research-based learning so that learning is always based on empirical reality in the classroom and not assumption. And the next is manfaat PTK. 1. Producing PTK report as teacher reference material to improve the quality of learning and scientific publications, material and studies in scientific form. And the next is fostering a culture of researching and writing scientific articles among teachers. And the next is realizing collaboration and synergy between teachers to solve learning problems and improve the quality. And the next is improving the teacher ability to describe the curriculum or learning program according to demands and context, location, school, and class. And the next, cultivates and increase student involvement in participating in class learning, improving learning outcome. And the last one is encouraging the realization of learning process that is interesting, challenging, fun, and involves student because the strategies, models, method, or learning are selected according to the needs and characteristics of student.
Thank you by Jamila explain the purpose, characteristics, and manfaat. The next is the explained by me. That is the expert tell about the design PTK. The first, according to Kurt Lewin, the core concept of CAR is one cycle consisting of 4 steps. The step is planning, acting, observing, and reflecting. The second, according to Chemis and MC Taggart, that CAR is a form of self-reflection which is carried out collectively by participants in social situations to improve reasoning and fairness of practice. And the last, John Eliot arranged each cycle with several actions, that's 3 until 5 actions, and each action consists of several realized steps. Actions are structured in the detail so that each stage of the action runs smoothly because in practice, in the field, each subject or sub-discussion usually cannot be complete in one step but several steps. And have the procedure of PTK. The first, identify and gain insight into a field. The next, gaining insight through self-reflection, and gaining insight through descriptive activities, gaining insight through explanatory activities, and the last, action planning. So the next we have the example for the script C. The title is Improving Students' Speaking Skills Using Communicative Activities, a Classroom Action Research at ABES class, a pre-intermediate class of English Made Easy by Intan Nurkarina. The first is the chapter 1 that have a background of the problem. Background of the problem is speaking is an important skill that students need to be able to perform. It is a very productive skill which will be very useful in communication. And since speaking is a productive skill, it involves the ability of communicative competence, pronunciation, intonation, grammar, vocabulary, and fluency. And based on the observation, it's by research at the pre-intermediate class of English Made Easy, some problems were found. The student asked to read a dialogue between two people containing some expression of greeting and introduction oneself. And the next is identification of the problem. Identification of the problems have the teacher. The good teacher should be to play his or her play will in teaching the student. And based on the observation, the teacher had not fulfilled the criteria of the good teacher, but she did not to give clear guidance to help student reach the target language function. And second is student. The good English learners have to hide motivation in learning in English. Based on the observation, some students showed positive behaviors, attentive, and they were not reluctant in communicating using English, although they still have difficulties in speaking. And the three is the learning materials. Learning materials is important to help students improve their speaking skills. And the last is the media, equipment, and facility, then in order to optimize the learning process. And C, limitation of the problem. Limitation of the problem to improving student speaking skills at pre-intermediate level, ABES class, in English Made Easy through communicative activities. Communicative activities are used the treatment of improving student speaking ability. And the next is formulation of the problem. Formulation of the problem is concerned with the kind of suitable tasks and activities that suit the situation in the classroom in order to create effective learning and supportive atmosphere in the learning process. And the objective of the study is to improve the speaking skills of students at the pre-intermediate level of English Made Easy through communicative activities. And F, significance of the study have the teacher, student, researcher, and student of English Education Department. And the chapter 2 by Kak Jija.
Okay, I will explain about the chapter 2. Chapter 2 is literature review and have a theoretical review and have communicative language teaching and some of the concept. And the first is the concept of CLT. Communicative language teaching is a set of principles about the goals of language teaching, how learners learn a language, the kinds of classroom activities that best facilitate their learning, and roles of the teachers and learn in the classroom by Richards, 2006. And next is the characteristic of CLT. The first is classroom goals, the next language technique and fluency, and students in a communicative class. The next students are given opportunities, and the last the role of the teacher. And next, the goal of CLT. The goal of CLT is to reach communicative competence that refers to the use of language for meaningful communication. And next, number 2, teaching speaking skill. Have the nature of speaking. Speaking is the active use of a language to express meaning so that other people can make sense of them. And the next is aspect of the speaking skill. According to Noonan, there are 2 main aspects of speaking skill. Are accuracy and fluency. And the next is micro skills of speaking. In teaching speaking, teachers need to not only guide the students to see the whole picture, but also to help students to see the pieces of language right down to the small part. And the next criteria of good speaking skill. Speaking is not simply expressing something orally. There are some aspects that need to be acquired by students to have good speaking skill. There is pronunciation, fluency, accuracy, vocabulary. And the next is difficulties in speaking. Some students tend to be silent when joining the class because they are afraid of making mistakes when they speak in English. Some students are not confident enough when speaking in the target language. And the next types of classroom speaking performance. Divide types of classroom speaking performed into the 3 activities, namely controlled, guided, and creative or free activities. The next principles for design speaking technique. The first principle is that the teacher should use techniques that cover the spectrum of learning needs, from language-based focus on accuracy to message-based focus on interaction, meaning, and fluency. Kulo! Panjang kali ko! Parah ko! Kulo! Lah, mana jadi ya? Tolonglah, sepanjang itu ya salah jadi cek-cek dulu tadi ya.
Iki panjang lo kak.
The next is teacher's roles during the speaking lesson. There are 3 teacher's roles during the speaking lesson as Harmer. The first is role prompters, and the second is participants, and the last is feedback provider. And the next, teaching adults. A teacher needs to vary the technique in teaching across age levels, though some techniques sometimes can be applied in teaching in every level of age in some ways. Characteristic of adults learn. The first is adults have accumulated life experience. The next, adults have established opinions. And next, adults are intrinsically motivated. Next, adults learn at various rates and in different ways according to their intellectual ability. And the next, adults learn best in a democratic, participatory, and collaborative environment. And the next, adult learners are mature people and prefer to be treated as such. And the next, adults are goal-oriented or relevancy-oriented. And next, adults are autonomous and self-directed. And next adults are perceptive and problem solve. And the next adults are sometimes tired when they attend the class. And the last adult might have insufficient confidence. And the number 3 is communicative activities. Definition of communicative activities is include any activities that engage the learner where their main purpose of the activity is to communicate meaning effectively. And B, purpose of communicative activities. Communicative activities are activities that can involve students in learning to use the target language. Suggest for purpose of communicative activities. The first, they provide all task practice. Next, they improve motivation. The next, they allow natural learning. And the C types of communicative activities. The first is functional communication activities. The second, social interaction activities. And the third, and D, possible activities to teach speaking. Teachers need to conduct various activities in teaching speaking science. Speaking skills have often been viewed as the most demanding skills in a second or foreign language learning. All situations in which real communication occurs naturally have to be taken advantage of, and many more suitable ones have to be created. The first is pre-communicative activities. The second is communicative activities. In the communicative activities, there are 4 examples for follows: A, question and answer. B, information gap activities. C, games. D, conversation. E, telling stories. D, 4, assessing speaking. Assessment is an important aspect in language teaching. In the speaking based on its type of speaking, classroom performs as follows: A, imitative. B, intensive. C, responsive. And D, interactive. And C, extensive or monologue. And the next is related studies. There are some previous research studies which show that various communicative activities in teaching speaking can improve students' speaking skill. Those research studies show that communicative activities could be effective activities which provide students with a lot of opportunities to practice their English in certain contexts of real life. And the last is conceptual framework. English is very important because it is considered the international language which people from all over the world use in order to communicate with one and another.
Okay, chapter 2 are to explain by Khadija, and chapter 3 explained by me is the research method. The research method is half type of research design. The type of the research design is action research study with to improving student speaking skill through communicative activities at ABES class, a pre-intermediate level class. And action research is a specific type of applied research. And the B research setting. Research setting is the English Made Easy is not a formal education institution. The research was conducted there based on the consideration of developing and improving the English speaking learning for adults more freely, which was different from formal institution. And the next subject of the research. Subject of the research is the consist of the 10 students. The name of the class is AB, was taken from one of the students in the class. And then the English teaching and learning process in this class were held 3 times a week with 80 minutes class for each meeting. And the next is research data collection. Data collection where qualitative is in nature, and the data record about the feelings, opinion, expectation, and suggestion of the research participant as well as the student related of the speaking skills. And the data collection is described as follows: its observation, interview, taking paragraphs. And the next is validity and reliability of the data. Based on Anderson et al. And in Burns, there are 5 types of the validity in action research. That is democratic validity, outcome validity, process validity, catalytic validity, and dialogue validity. And the next is the research procedure. This action was conducted in some cycles depending on the student improvement in the speaking skills. The procedure described as follows: determining the thematic concern, planning, action and observation, reflection. And the next chapter by Jamilah. Explain it.
Okay, I will explain about Capture 4, the research finding and discussion. This capture presents the following section: reconnaissance, report of the cycle 1 and cycle 2. Reconnaissance review the identifications of the field problems and the identification of the problem to solve. The next section presents the planning, action, and observation, and also reflection of cycle 1. The last section report the planning, action, and observation, and also reflection of cycle 2. A. Reconnaissance. At the beginning of this study, the researchers did some activities to determine the field problem in the teaching and learning process. 1. Identification of the field problems. The researchers conducted an observation and interviews to identify the problems. And number 2 is identification of the field problem to solve. After identifying the field problem, the researchers and the collaborators held a discussion to determine the problem to solve. And the first problem that had been identified were listed. Then the researchers showed the list to her collaborator, and problems were classified based on the sources of the problems. And number B, MB, report of cycle 1. 1. Planning. After determining the field problem to solve, the collaborator and the researchers began to plan the action to solve the problems. The action will focus on improving student speaking skills through communicative activities. A. Using classroom English in teaching and learning process. Based on the discussion, the researchers and the collaborator agreed to use classroom English or English routine during the teaching and English learning process. It was aimed at making students familiar and accustomed to the English word and sentence and improving the student classroom production. It was also aimed at creating exposure the student. It was done to create an atmosphere in which English and the language that should be used in the class as far as possible. B. Communicating the objective and the lesson to the student. At the beginning of the lesson, the teacher would direct the student to write the lesson through interaction. The teacher would personalize some questions leading to the topic that would be discussed. C. Making the lesson plan. The teachers would plan the learning process so that the class would run smoothly and successfully, and also the element included in the whole process could support the attempt to reach the objective of the learning. D. Conductive pre-communicative activities. Before entering communicative activities, the teacher would prepare the student by conducting pre-communicative activities. The pre-communicative activities would be focused on comprehension and language. E. Conductive communicative activities. Communicative activities would be conducted through a variety of activities such as interview, panel discussion, and card games. And F. Giving feedback for student accuracy and pronunciations. The researchers acting the teacher in this study would give feedback for student speaking skill, especially accuracy and their pronunciations. G. Asking students to memorize vocabularies and giving vocabulary and pronunciations check in each meeting. The teacher would ask the student to memorize one's vocabulary to list to be checked in every meeting. H. Using media in teaching and learning process. During the cycle 1, the teacher would like to use some media to make the teaching and learning process more understandable and interesting. 2. Action and observations. The results of cycle 1 are presented below. A. Using classroom English in teaching and learning process. Before conducting the actions, the English teacher used English only to give instruction, and the teaching and learning process was done using more both Indonesia and English. B. Communicating the objective of the lesson to the student. As stated before, the researchers acting as the teacher in the class communicate the objective of the lesson in every meeting in cycle 1 through interaction so that the student knew what they were going to learn and the objective that they needed to accomplish. C. Designing lesson plan. Before this action result, the teacher at AME was not used to design lesson plan before the term. As the result, the activities did not run very smoothly. The delivery of the explanation, the class activities were not systemical. C. Designing lesson plan.
EME.
C. Designing lesson plan. Before this action result, the teacher at EME was not used to design lesson plan before the TAF. As the result, the activity did not run very smoothly. The delivery of the explanations, the class activities were not systematical. D. Conducting pre-communicative activities. During the cycle 1, the researchers conduct pre-communicative activities before entering the communicative activities. In conducting comprehension-focused activity, the researchers gave the student as an input text in each meeting with different topic for every meeting in the form of written dialogues as the input text. A. Conducting communicative activities. F. Giving feedback for the student. Based on the previous observation, the English teacher will give feedback to the students. She did not really notice when the student made mistakes, such as accuracy or pronunciation mistake. She did not respond to the student mistakes. She just answered the student when they asked her some vocab questions. G. Asking students to memorize vocabulary and asking vocabulary and pronunciation check in each meeting. The lack of vocabulary mystery become a big problem in improving the student's speaking skill. Most students were quite active and many of them really wanted to express their opinion in English. The student asked the teacher many times about certain vocabulary that they wanted to use. H. Using media in teaching and learning process. Based on the observation and the interview, the English teacher never used media to support the teaching and learning process. 3. Reflection. After implementing the action of cycle 1, the collaborator and and the researchers had discussions to reflect the action of cycle 1. Everyone participating in this research has ample opportunities to share their ideas, opinions, and really relate to the implement action. Based on the discussion with the collaborator in the democratic and dialogic atmosphere, the reflection can be summarized in the following description. A. Using classroom English in teaching and learning process. B. Communicating the objective of the lesson to the student. C. Designing lesson plan before teaching the class. D. Conducting pre-communicative activities. A. Conducting communicative activities. F. Giving feedback for student speaking skill. G. Asking students to memorize vocabularies and giving student vocabulary to and pronunciation check. H. Using media in teaching and learning process. 4. Revise plan. And C. Report or cycle 2. 1. Planning. Before conducting the action in cycle 2, the researchers and the collaborators held a discussion to revise the plan for cycle 2. The researchers and the collaborators agreed to focus on solving the problems for in cycle 1, especially related to the classroom management, the type of activities and tasks that would motivate the student to be more active and to improve student fluency and accuracy, also to bridge the student English proficiency difference. A. Using classroom English in teaching and learning process. B. Communicating the objective of lesson to the student. C. Designing the lesson plan. D. Conducting pre-communicative activities. E. Conducting communicative activities. F. Giving feedback for student accuracy and pronunciations. G. Asking students to memorize vocabulary, giving student vocabulary and pronunciation checks. H. Using media in teaching and learning process. E. Giving rewards for the student of the day. And the next is action and observations. The action of cycle 2 were conducted in 3 meetings. The result of cycle 2 will present below. A. Using classroom English in teaching and learning process, the student speaking skill had improved through the use of classroom English in every meeting in cycle 2 and cycle 1. B. Communicating the objective of the lesson to the student. The researchers also communicate the objective of the lesson in every meeting in cycle 2, since it made students know what they were going to learn so that they could be motivated and set up their own goals. C. Designing lesson plan. In the cycle 1, in this cycle 2, the researchers also always design the lesson plan before conducting the class. The class activities run well and systematically during the cycle 2 as planned in the lesson plan. D. Conducting the pre-communicative activities. As conducted in cycle 1, the researchers divide the pre-communicative activities into comprehension focus and language focus activities. E. Conducting communicative activities. The researchers conduct some communicative activities through a variety of information gap activities such as what are you doing activity, sharing my future plan activities, and sharing my preference activities. F. Giving feedback for student accuracy and pronunciations. G. Asking students to memorize vocabularies and giving vocabulary and pronunciation check in every meeting. H. Using media in teaching and learning process. E. Giving reward for active student. And the next is reflections. The researchers and the collaborators heard the final reflection after implementing the action in cycle 2. there were some changes as the result of the study. The change in the research, the student, the teaching and learning process, and the collaborators. The details are presented below. 1. The change in the research. After conducting this research, the researcher's professionalism as the student-teacher improved. 2. The change in the student being taught using communicative approach. The student become more responsive during the teaching and learning process. And the next is the change in the English teaching and learning process. The English teaching and learning process tends to be student-centered. And then last one is the change to be collaborators being involved in this research study. The English teacher of English made easy got lots of experience of how to teach English, especially teaching speaking. And the last one is chapter 5, conclusion, implication, and suggestion. A. Conclusion. The research finding and discussion presented in chapter 4 showed that the student speaking skill improved through communicative activities. In line with this, the finding present in chapter 4 had also led the researchers to the following conclusion. 1. The teaching and learning process was far effective when it was well designed since the very beginning. 2. Classroom English accompanied that by gesture, movement, and body language was effective to make the student understand the English word and the expression as well as to help them understand the content of the explanation. And the next is grouping student was done in various ways, such as by considering the student characteristic and personality by asking them to change their group every certain time so they could have the opportunity to talk with different students in turns. And the next is the students were happy and enthusiastic enjoying the activities which were conducted individually. 5. Encouraging the student and making learning process at ease were effective to improve the involvement in the class activities. And the last one is giving feedback could help the student improve their speaking skill, especially their accuracy and pronunciation. B. Implication. There were some implications in reference to the result of the implemented action to improve the student's speaking skill. 1. Understanding the student in the basic requirement for the teacher to improve the student's speaking skill. 2. The teacher need to realize that they teach to serve the student so that there will be empathy between the teacher and student. And C. Suggestions. Based on the conclusion and implication, some suggestions are offered for the English teacher and other researchers. The suggestions are as follows. 1. The researchers plan to be better. 2. Suggestion to be collaborator. And the last one is suggestion to the English course.
Aduh, tunggu dulu. Capek.
Alah.
Nah, tunggu penutupnya dulu.
Oh iya.
Apa?
Okay, that's all.
Okay, that's all our presentation about the classroom action research or PTK, and give the example the skripsi. And if have the make mistake, we are sorry and see you next.
Tunggu, tahu nggak Cica?
Okay, because I need to explain about the classroom action research or PTK, and I need to give the example of the skripsi, and then if we make the mistake, we apologize and see you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.